This Travis Wing Goodsell. I need to take off my shoes and curl my toes. Die hard, guys. Come on, keep up. I'm always quoting movie lines because I've already done the video on how our lives are always a collection of what we experience. And so if we experience movies, then we live our lives based on the characters we relate with, or we like, or TV shows, or music, or books, or in some cases other people. And so the friends you hang out with and spend time with, and yeah, you start copying their lines, their mannerisms. That's when you know that a married couple have united themselves to each other, is that they start doing and saying the same. They're in sync. You can recognize the similar patterns of behavior. So if after 50 years of marriage you think that, wow, that's great, you guys have lasted this long, and they're not even holding hands, they're not doing anything together, they're not doing anything the same, then you know it was a failed marriage. It's that simple. They just stayed together because of peer pressure or religious beliefs or whatever. So yeah, so women, it's okay if the man doesn't do exactly as you do for the first 5-10 years. There will be change. You don't have to force it on them. But I'm not here to talk about that. I already did that video. So yeah, they moved in a new guy into Karen's old apartment now. So they're covering up their tracks. And I do need to do a video about Utah's treatment of people. But I didn't intend for this to be that video either. This video I intended to be about why the church wants me dead. That's right, church wants me dead. They can't come out and say it. They can't come out and give the orders. You know, just like Cohen's testimony yesterday. Trump never comes out and says what he orders and wants done. He just says the reality of how things should be, and that everybody must understand what he means by that, and they must help him facilitate that fantasy reality so that it becomes true. And so when Trump says there's no collusion, and he says it over and over and over and over and over and over and over, it's because not everybody is catching on. His base, yes, and if he can get his base to continually be brainwashed into that concept, then he can get his followers to go do pipe bombs and store up weapons to do an all-out assault to destroy America. If you're unfamiliar with the guys that have been caught, who have been Trump loyalists. That's how he works. That's what Cohen has been for the last 10 years, working directly to facilitate Trump's will on others, so that he doesn't get in trouble, that he doesn't get busted, he doesn't get sued, and whatever else. He has a fixer for that. And so Cohen's statement to the Republicans, because the Republicans are doing the same thing. Nunes, you know, he's like jumping on a grenade to protect Trump. You know, other Republicans have given up their careers to protect Trump. Paul Ryan, he's a young guy. Why is he retiring? He was He was second in line for the presidency. Because vice president, then Paul Ryan. What is he doing? He gave up. You know? And so the midterms, the House, swept with Democrats. Republicans are destroying themselves, all to protect Trump. It makes no sense unless you understand Trump. And so, yeah. And the thing is that Trump has Russia to protect him. So, since nobody is interested in politics on my YouTube channel, it's the same as the church. The church, they turned themselves into a party organization similar to government. And of course they're alt-right, so they're Republican in the metaphoric usage. And so everybody who's not a Mormon or who leaves the Mormon church, they're the Democrats. They're the opposition. They're the demon party that wants open borders and wants to destroy America and take away freedom and allow rapists and murderers in. You are aware that Trump had been calling the immigrants rapists? And you are aware, because you haven't been watching Fox News, right? You are aware that there are 5,000 complaints now about the border guards who are housing the immigrants? 5,000 complaints of sexual assault. It's the border guards who are the rapists. So that's disturbing. But that's all part of Trump's lies. And so those border guards, you know, they see the immigrants as subhuman creatures who are in need of domestication. And so the church is likewise doing these same tactics. The church, as I've pointed out, uses coding in their speech. When they say that the temple is sacred and we shouldn't talk about what is sacred, what they're really saying is keep silent about it. It's a non-disclosure agreement threat. And as I told you in the other video, Utahns adopt that thinking. Mormons here in Utah all understand that coded messaging, and they apply it to other people who try to move in from the outside. And so they're friendly at the beginning. Oh yeah, if you just come by to visit, you'll go back, oh, the Mormons were so nice. Unless you're a Mormon visiting Mormons in Utah. Then it's like, those Mormons. And so everybody knows Mormons outside of Utah are different from Mormons inside Utah. And it's because of this coding that goes on, the secret combinations, technically speaking, as the Book of Mormon codes it. and so, yeah, I'm an outsider. Understand that. I've lived here in Utah since '96, so I guess technically I'm called a Utahn, but I am an outsider. Utah does not claim me as Utah's own. and that's why. It's because I'm an outsider. I have not conformed to the Utah mentality. Even though I have been Joseph Smith's strongest supporter. And that's what we're going to get to talk about today. And so, growing up Mormon, we of course had the Pearl of Great Price with the facsimiles, the Egyptian facsimiles in the Book of Abraham. And I always wanted to know, how do I translate it? I want to know what it says. Why is it not translated? You know, aren't the prophets seers, which means they can translate ancient records? Why is it not translated? And my mom told me that, oh, the Book of Abraham is a higher level of learning, and you gotta work towards that level or something like that. And so, yeah, I didn't care much for being told to back off and don't study it. But there's nothing I can do. I didn't know where to go or what to do. We didn't have Google back then. And so life went on. I get my patriarchal blessing. It says foreign language on my mission, but it didn't say which one, but it said study. I'm like, which one? I go on my mission. It's English speaking in New York, but I do get to teach English to the Chinese branch. We got the Creole and French Guianan language accents there, and among many other accents, lots and lots of accents in New York City. Can never pick up the Long Island Italian accent. It's the one accent I couldn't pick out. You know, I had help with Steven Seagal movies, Marked for Death, to help me with the accent of the Jamaican accent. But yeah, good times. They'd play Buffalo Soldier as we go walking by. They'd turn it up. Good times. All right, so my mission, I was finally able to read the Bible all the way through, and so I annotate. I don't just read. I can't just read. I have to annotate in order to fully understand what's going on in there and to refer to it later on. And you know, that was my school training, I guess, that caused me to do that, because you know, you had to read a book and then you had to answer questions about what you read from the book. And so that was my conditioning, is to annotate the book in order to answer the questions. And then I went to early morning seminary for the church, but it's what the church wants you to know. So you skip out on many different subjects, such as the Tamar playing a sacral prostitute in order to get Judah to marry her, and the other fun stories, which is why there's sexual repression in the church as well as Christianity. But yeah, that's the story of sexual deviance, as everybody thinks, and so nobody, even the Jews, don't talk about that chapter because they don't understand it. And so yeah, I did try to support James Baker to get that changed in the footnotes of the Mormon scriptures, because it calls her a prostitute and a whore, and they defame her. Tamar is not an evil person. She was a necessary doing God's will according to the law of Moses, or what became the law of Moses. And so it was according to the laws of the custom, I guess, prior to Moses establishing the laws. Okay, so let's just cut this as short as possible here for you. I married my first wife at Rick's. We met each other there, and there's a whole story on that. And she took me to Canada. In Canada, there's a bookstore there in Lethbridge, a Mormon bookstore. And so for my birthday one year, I was given teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith. Not the Relief Society priesthood manuals. This was long before that. And it was the book, a collection of his works. And in that book, I came across the King Follett Discourse quote about him saying that Genesis 1:1 from the Hebrew text is incorrectly translated. And so that was like, oh, he's done a translation of the biblical Hebrew text? Bible came from Hebrew? Because I knew of it from the footnotes, because they say Heb and Ger for Hebrew and Greek, but no Egyptian. Yeah, and I couldn't get them to put Egyptian footnotes in the scriptures either. I tried, guys. The church is just stubborn on that. And so I had more influencing that wanted me to learn ancient languages. Now Hebrew and then Egyptian. But I had no idea where to go or what to do or how to get it. When I was at the Institute in Canada, while I was going to the university in Lethbridge, one of the teachers had received the submission of John Gee's father. I don't remember his name, if it's John Gee Sr., I don't know. But apparently he's in Canada. It was about his understanding of the facsimiles. And it was just a few pages, stapled together. It wasn't like an extensive thing. The church had rejected it, though. They were intending to try to utilize some of the information he was going to provide them with the original footnotes that came out in '81, and also try to get a manual for Institute, and hoping for some added insight, and they didn't use any of it. I was given a copy, but I don't have it anymore. My dad destroyed all my stuff when they had me arrested, which is part of the story. So I remember some of the stuff on there. He called facsimile number 2 the Eye of Ra, and partially right. He could have made it a lot simpler. I could have done it. I have done it. But the church won't take mine either. And so that was it. I was going to school there at the university, and hadn't got a clue as to what I was going to take. I had gone into Thomas Robinson's biblical studies courses. He had a variety of different courses, and so I had been taking all of his classes, and going through the summer school as well, and in right at my final year, I guess the guidance counselor, or whoever they're called, and she wanted to see me, and she went over the classes I had taken, which included biblical studies, because none of my Rick's College religious course, Bible courses, or any of that, none of that was acceptable as credit hours at the university. So all of the credit hours at Rick's, most of it didn't transfer. Only the required humanities courses, some of those were accepted. But other than that, no. It's a religious school. They don't teach you how to study. Yeah, and at the church schools, you just read the Book of Mormon, and you have to and parrot what they want you to answer. And so there's no research that's done on the scriptures. Up in Canada, in the Biblical Studies course under Thomas Robinson, you did research. And so there was a big difference. There was, however, one class that I took at Rick's, studying the scriptures. That was awesome. He really did a number on the scriptures, on how to go through and study them in detail. You know, going to the Greek language, going to the Hebrew language, going on to dictionaries, and a book on customs. I should have it somewhere in that pile, one of those piles. Manners and Customs of the Bible Times, I think it's called. I'll go find it for you. I can pause on this version. It was buried in the back. There it is. Ralph Gower. I'm having to reach all the way over the table to pull it out. Okay. So, I was influenced to how to study the scriptures with that. And that it helped me, that one class, because none of the other Mormon Bible classes helped me. Because I had two classes, one on the book of Revelation and another one on the New Testament. And when we got to Revelation, in the one class, I had been taking book of Revelations in the other class, and the teachers were contradicting each other. One was pro, what's his name, McConkie, and the other one was anti-McConkie, Bruce R. McConkie. And so that was interesting. So, yeah, I don't think there was any other Mormons who recognized that they were being polarized to be either pro or anti-McConkie. And I was the one who was the crossroads for both understandings. And so now, how do I think about McConkie? He didn't know anything. I'm for the anti-McConkie camp. So, yeah, especially when I recognized his work in the footnotes and the chapter headings. And yeah, he's added his own personal information in there, personal beliefs. So, yeah, you'll have to go and do your own study to find them, because this is not what this video is for. And so, my last year was coming up, and so this is in December, and let's see, it would have been December of '95, because I graduated in August of '96, and that's when we moved down to Utah. And so she calls me in December. She goes over the classes I've taken, and she says, hey, you know, you have enough biblical studies for a major in biblical studies, and you've got enough classes in philosophy of science to qualify for a philosophy of science major. And so why don't we create a dual major for you and call it Bachelor of Science in Biblical Studies. And then you've taken Latin already, because I took it over the summer. So let's let's provide you with an ancient languages. It's supposed to be classical, but she called it ancient language minor. And so, okay, and sure enough, I go looking through the catalog for the next semester, and there it was. Biblical Hebrew. Wow. So I thought that was awesome. I knew once I saw that in there that that was what I needed to take. And yeah, the school set it up for me so that I could take some more classes to qualify for the minor. And they utilized, I believe he was a geology teacher in his regular job there, but he had taken Biblical Hebrew at Harvard from Thomas O. Lambden, the worldwide famous Hebraist, whose Hebrew instruction manual has been used worldwide. And so when I got to the University of Utah, and that's when they started changing. They didn't want to use his book here in America. They wanted to use a, was he Chinese or I don't think he was Japanese. The name seemed more Chinese, I think. But yeah, some other guy had published a new book on how to learn Hebrew and Biblical Hebrew, and that was the text down here in Utah, at the University of Utah. And so, yeah, Walter Emanuel Aufrecht was our teacher for Biblical Hebrew, and he told us it's just a one-time class. They're not intending to extend this into a second semester, and knowing that, he crammed everything he could into our brains. All of his knowledge he gave to us and rushed it on us, and so his quizzes and method of testing was quite intricate and detailed, and so you actually had to know a lot, not just how to spell, but you needed to know the tense and the placement in a sentence, all that stuff. So it was awesome, and it was an opportunity for me to try to figure out how Joseph Smith translated Genesis 1:1 from the Hebrew text. And time after time, I'd present the teacher with a suggested translation, and nope, it doesn't work. Nope, nope, nope. And he finally informed me that the Masorite markings fix the translation. Nobody can alter the translation because of those Masorite markings. And other people don't get that. You know, nobody understands that the Bible is incorrectly translated. It's the JPS translation that is the only correct translation, and nobody really gets that. It's because of the Masorite marks. The Masorites determined what the translation was. That's it. That's the end of the story. And so, because of that understanding, I then needed to figure out something else. Now, Mr. Aufrecht instructed us at the beginning. He gave us the clues that helped me figure it out. And he told us about how there were interesting connections in the vocabulary. And nobody's figured it out yet, but there's some interesting things when you look at the vocabulary. For example, Shemayim, which is translated as heavens. It has a yom at the end of it, and Shemesh, or let's see, Shemayim, Mayim, sorry. Mayim is waters, and you typically don't have a singular word for water, which is mai. You have to have the im at the end all the time, the masculine plural ending. It's always understood as a plural. I don't know if I don't even think they understood as a water drop as being a singular. You have to add the adjective, I guess, to it to clarify it, or come up with a different name altogether, whatever different word altogether. And then C, yom, yam, actually. The vowels differ depending on the translation, and that was an interesting thing that I had found also, is that you can have the same consonants, but because of the Masorite marking vowels, it alters the translation. And so that was another clue that helped me figure this out. But I realized, I need to go before 800 AD when the Masoretes started working on this. I needed to go to Paleo Hebrew, Old Hebrew. And that was how I figured it out. William Foxwell Albright came up with his decipherment of Proto-Sinaitic and made the claim that it's the origin of Hebrew, that it was the pictograph of the Hebrew script, linear script. And I found out, no, it's not. Because when you go to the Paleo-Hebrew characters, not the Aramaic characters, but the Paleo-Hebrew, and then there's different stages depending on which tribe utilized Paleo-Hebrew. There's some slight differences, but for the most part it's one and the same, and the text that you want to use is Phoenician. Phoenician is the origin of the alphabet, and because Paleo-Hebrew, one of the scripts patterns Phoenician, that's the Paleo-Hebrew script that I utilize, is the Phoenician Paleo-Hebrew, and so I just call it Paleo-Hebrew rather than Phoenician, though it's understood as being one and the same. And so other Paleo-Hebrew scripts are derived from the Phoenician. They're older, well, younger. When you go into BC territory, it's different. And so that's the script that I utilized in my research, because I didn't want to do the other scripts. I wanted to figure out Paleo-Hebrew first, then I can work on the other scripts, such as Greek, which also became available during the summertime by Thomas Robinson. And I did that video where I posted the link to the book that has the CD-ROM that would have been me making that CD-ROM. But I was graduated and was moving to Utah, and so I told him I'm not able to do it, and if I would recommend John Penny, and I explained that in the other video. And so, yeah, as I graduated, I continued to do research and wanted to figure it out, because when I was in high school, I wanted to be a discoverer. I wanted to be the first one to discover something, and people are saying, "Oh, everything's been found. There's nothing left to discover, except maybe outer space and the ocean floor." at the deepest parts of the ocean that we've never been before. And so I realized those weren't real for me to pursue. And so I thought, well, hey, nobody's found Bigfoot. And so I mapped out on a photocopy of the map of the world and did a trail. I was going to go on a journey around the world, going to each place, going up into Washington and Oregon to find Bigfoot, and then go up into Canada to find, and then China to find the Yeti and the abominable snowman up in Canada, I guess. And then South America to look at the pyramids, to look for buried treasure. Wonder where I would have gotten that idea from. And so, yeah, when I realized that, hey, you mean nobody's figured out the origins of the alphabet? Hey! You know, when I was in math, and I was told about Pythagorean's theorem, I was informed that nobody knew how it worked. And so I thought, I'm gonna figure it out. Well, I never did, but now I was given another chance for another discovery with the origin of the alphabet. And I was told by my philosophy of science teacher, the one main one, I can't remember his name anymore, he was the one that saw me reading the Book of Abraham and the facsimiles page, and said, how do you know that translation's correct? Oh, because Joseph Smith said so. I should have known better. My philosophy of science teacher, who taught me that you don't use unsound arguments. And there he was, testing me to see how well I've learned in his class. I felt so ashamed. And I could just see the disappointment in his eyes, his countenance. All that time in my classes, and he hasn't learned anything. And so, yeah, doing his research techniques to do the research on Paleo-Hebrew to make up for the the embarrassment that I caused myself and the church. I made sure to follow his scientific method in figuring out the origin of the alphabet, and so yeah, I've got I think it's on top of the pile that I made. Maybe. Hold on a second, I'll show you. Okay, this is it. It's the index of the actual research book that I did. So it's small like an index, and it's just got the summation of everything, so that you can go to my website and get a free copy, a digital PDF. It's free. It would be under, you have to scroll down to PDF books, and then Paleo-Hebrew. I believe that's the category. And you just click on both of the research manual that I did that didn't allow me any more pages in Amazon to put the index in it. So the index had to be in that separate book. So that's why. And yeah, you can get them for free. I'm not interested in making money. But you gotta live. Yeah. Yeah. I have no desire to be wealthy. I have a lifestyle that I would like to live. You know, that comes from my dad's side of the family. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I figured out how to decipher Paleo-Hebrew, and I did it in February of 1997. So it was right before my 27th birthday, and my philosophy of science teacher told us that all of the great discoveries that a man will make in his lifetime will be by the time he's 26 years old. And so that was my goal as time was running out. And so yeah, when I realized when I made the decipherment breakthrough, it was when I was just barely 26 still. And so I still laugh about that today, as you can tell. Yeah, as you can also imagine, my first wife took the kids away and said, my kids will not learn Hebrew. Oh, do you know that you gave me the book that started me on this path? You are to blame. But anyway, so, yeah, and with that, I had to, did I? No, I didn't. I'm not going to go up and get it again. And so, after making the decipherment, which was simple, you just do a visual comparison, because the Proto-Sinaitic was claiming that each character of Paleo-Hebrew corresponded with the picture of the Proto-Sinaitic script. And so it was just a simple matter of verifying with the Egyptian language, with the Egyptian characters, because that's what William Foxwell Albright was claiming, is that the Proto-Sinaitic was just a carryover from the Egyptian characters, and it was being utilized for the Hebrew, what became of the Hebrew linear script. And so, how do you verify it? Go into Egyptian, check with the characters, and you have to check the hieratic of the characters, or the hieroglyphic script, and the hieratic script, and the demotic script. And I had to search and find whatever book I can find that had those scripts, cursive script variations. And there's a Beto, she has a book that shows a lot of it, but I couldn't find an all-inclusive book, and but that helped me on my journey to figuring it out. I then had to do a confirmation after trying to figure out the initial comparison to Egyptian characters, and I realized, hey, wait a minute, no, they don't match the Proto-Sinaitic as they are supposed to. Proto-Sinaitic characters are different linear script, and so I realized that Proto-Sinaitic is a de-evolution of Paleo-Hebrew, even though everybody, according to William Foxwell Albright, says, no, it's the origin of the alphabet, we've done it. No. And so I get distracted, so I gotta get back on track. Okay. So yeah, after I made the discovery, I then had to work on testing the discovery, testing the decipherment, see if it's accurate. Because if it's related to a specific Egyptian picture, then does that have meaning in the vocabulary. And so I had to do a vocabulary test. And I've got books thick of all my research, 8.5 by 11. So it's a big volume of work, comparable to Hebrew is Greek book by, I can't remember his name, Yehuda? Something Ben Yehuda, I think. Oh man, Ari's on. Alrighty. Sometimes he does a good show. Other times it's just panel discussions. But yeah, you always test your work. You don't just say, I've done it, here it is, everybody must now obey. Like William Foxwell Albright did. Nobody checked his work. Nobody said, wait a minute. Isn't the phonetics of Hebrew Assyrian? And you're calling it Semitic? But yet the characters come from Egyptian, which is Hamido. And then it gets even worse because, hey, I discovered that it also corresponds with Paleo-Greek. They're the exact same letters. They both come from Phoenician, yet for some reason Hebrew is Semitic and Greek is something other. Huh? It's like Etruscan or something like that. I can't remember what they call it, but and it's just mind-boggling how people don't catch these things to correct these so-called professionals who make their decipherment discoveries. And so yeah, I walked right into an open field of discovery, and verified it with the Greek vocabulary, Scott and Liddell, even though it was for biblical Hebrew or biblical Greek, and a lot of their definitions come from Catholic interpretation rather than the original Greek, which I sometimes had to verify if I recognized a Catholic definition. And so I'd have to correct that one. So, like, for example, pornography, it's a Greek word, 2 Greek words in fact, but the definitions that we go by are the Catholic definitions. And so nobody actually does the verification necessary. And so it basically means an art museum. Literally translated, art museum. A display, a graphic display. That's it. Art, graph, and display being exhibited. Yeah, anyway. So you have to check people's work. You can't just trust whatever somebody says. And so, yeah, when I went through just the first page, comparing it with the Hebrew equivalent word, I was like, no way, this can't happen. You don't get 100% match. I got 100% match on just the first page. And so, yeah, I knew I was onto something with the vocabulary now. And so, yeah, when I learned of that Hebrew is Greek book, I went, oh, somebody's already done it, but his is phonetic. His isn't pictorial. And so I thought that was interesting. So yeah, it works both ways, apparently. And so, yeah, and then I found Chinese. So I have Chinese in here too. Let me find an example. Chinese meaning. See that? Chinese meaning for the cough. Kappa in Greek. So yeah, I found a book on the origin of Chinese and what each stroke it means. Uh, I don't think modern Chinese people know what the original strokes mean, which is interesting. They only know the basic forms, not the original strokes. And so I had to search to find that book, but found it, and it's Egyptian. You know, Eva Vasilevska insisted, Egyptian is not Chinese. There's no match. No collusion. Nope, there is. Sorry. Chinese came from Egyptian. And sure enough, they've done DNA research on Chinese skeletons and have traced China, the people of China, to Egypt. So, yeah, which is interesting when you see the Book of Mormon and they claim that the American Indians came from China, and so the Smithsonian says, oh yeah, they're Chinese in the DNA and they went over the Bering Strait. Had nothing to do with ships sailing across the Pacific and are now buried under the waters on the coast of California. We refuse to accept that evidence. Bering Strait. And, come on. I need to wrap this up. I got other things to do. I gotta eat. Mouth is all dry. And I gotta take off my shoes and curl my toes. And so, yeah, I've made lots of discoveries since the decipherment of Paleo-Hebrew. And another one of those is that, hey, I've noticed each character, each letter of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet has meaning in and of itself, and not just a single word meaning, multiple meanings, as if on levels. And I thought that's strange. And so yeah, I went and I've tested that too. And when I figured that out, I thought, you know, the Egyptian glyph pictures, not the text, the pictures that accompany the text, none of those characters are in Gardner's sign list. Why is that? Why is nobody translating the picture glyphs? And so I thought, hey, Paleo-Hebrew has multiple level meanings for each character, which is assigned to an Egyptian picture glyph. Ta-da! And so I am the one who deciphered the Egyptian pictures, the glyphs, not the text, the glyphs, because yes, they too have that level meaning and categorized. And so, like the creation story, for example, the Heliopolis creation glyph. It has Nut, it has Shu the father, and Geb. And Nut and Geb are brother and sister. And there's a story that's in text that talks about Nut and Geb fell in love with each other. Adam, the father of Shu, was unhappy. I don't like them hanging out together. I need them separated. And so he orders Shu to separate his two children. Thus the glyph. That's one level of meaning. It also corresponds to the Egyptian concept of creation of heaven and earth. You know, earth is the Geb and Nut is heaven. And they're separated with air, Shu. That's two. But then it's also the Nile River creation with the inundation of the Nile every year. It's flooded, covered in water, and then the waters separate with air, and land rises up out of the waters. Sort of like Genesis 1 also. So there's 3 and 4. And that's how Joseph Smith was right. That fourth one, referring to the biblical comparison, or the biblical interpretation, is the one that helped me figure out that the Bible is taken from the Egyptian glyphs. And that's my discovery. So yes, Paleo-Hebrew opened up a whole new world. Yeah, for some reason the church hates me. I've confirmed Joseph Smith was accurate, that yes, Elohim is supposed to be plural, which means the whole translation of the Masoretes, wrong. Remove those vowel points. Get them out of there. Go back to the original script of Paleo-Hebrew. Get rid of that Aramaic script. I know you hate the Samaritans and that they're using Paleo-Hebrew script, but you got to go back to Paleo-Hebrew script. Get rid of those added vowel points that Deuteronomy orders you not to add. Do not add one jot or tittle. Where do you think that comes from? Deuteronomy. And the Masoretes violate it. Unbelievable. It's bad enough that the Bible, in its translation form in the Torah, has Babylonian influencing. 7 days of creation? Are you sure? A 7th day of Sabbath? Are you sure? Yeah, that's all Babylon. Babylon. And so, yeah, I've now discovered more things as a result. So Paleo-Hebrew and other decipherment languages, origins, and Egyptian glyphs, and the Bible, that it comes from the Egyptian documents. And as a result, I've done exactly what the Mormons claim only a seer can do. And thus the church hates me and wants me dead. Because I am living proof that the church is a fraud. And so yeah, I intended to talk about the the threats on my life, so I hadn't gotten around to that. But oh well. But yeah, F. Michael Watson was the first one. Then the Farms boys also tried, and then you know, then bishops got involved, and so man, I bought reading glasses because I got new contacts that the eye doctor said, "Oh, you're going to need reading glasses with these." Most expensive eye contacts that he said, "Nope, these are the only ones you can get." I can't even pay for the and so yeah, when I realized I can't read from this distance anymore, and so I got reading glasses, and the reading glasses, I think it's gone. I might have some residue here, like a wedding ring band scar or whatever, indentation, but yeah, I occasionally get headaches, pains, sharp pains, just right in that area where my glasses were cutting off circulation, and I could no longer wear the glasses anymore. I would put them on and instantly, So, yeah, I realized, hey, I just take one of my contacts out, and the two eyes adjust. So, alrighty. So, yeah, I didn't get to tell y'all the details of all the threats that have been made to my life. You know, the F. Michael Watson, and Farms, and Mark Shortliff. He was in cahoots with the Mormon Church to remove me from society and then come in here in this area. So, alrighty. Hurts. Alrighty, and so now the Russians are involved, as I've indicated in the last video I did this morning, and so there's a quid pro quo between Russia and the Mormon Church. So Russia is invested in the church to continue to prosper in order to make money for the Russians, and so they need to protect their investment. As I did the clips from the movie Contact, specifically indicating Hammond, who wanted to protect his investment and keep Jodie Foster in the game. And so, and then what's his name at the end becomes the prosecutor. Prosecutor? Just because she thought that she had traveled through a wormhole and you saw her go straight down, you want to prosecute her? I always thought that was strange. And then, of course, then there's 18 hours of blank recording, even though she went straight down. But they didn't want to tell her that. Oh, well. Okay, so yeah, we're done for this, I guess. I can't get to, I'll have to do it another time then, I guess. All the threats that have been had on my life and are still having on my life, as I didn't get paid today because of some problem with Amazon, which just happened to correspond with an influx of Russian involvement on YouTube, website, Gmail, LinkedIn. So alrighty. So now you know why the church hates me. It's because I have done the work of a translator. I've deciphered ancient languages, and they haven't. They've had the documents all along, and I've done those videos, but yeah, that's why they hate me. And they can't come out and say, kill them, because they might be recorded. So they have to do it through coded messaging. We need to make sure that people are compliant with the church. It's the third covenant of the gospel in the temple, to not speak ill of your those anointed. That's the leaders. It's not those who get their washing and anointings. And so yeah, you have to give loyalty to the leaders in your tithing or your temple recommend interview. So it's just one big mess, and I can't get through the walls of Mormons that refuse to see the truth. So yeah, you can continue to support the church, or you can follow a guy who's figured out Joseph Smith was onto something, because the Egyptologists say, hey, we can't find Abraham anywhere in the text. Remember the fourth way? All the Bible stories come from Egyptian documents. That's how Joseph figured it out. And he never got to finish his work, so I get to have the credit. And so, yeah, I've thoroughly tested it, and have been able to show, yeah, each and every story. Oh, that's from that Egyptian document. That's from that Egyptian document. That's from that Egyptian document. And the Zeitgeist crew, the rising Egyptologists, although it was headed by D.M. Murdoch, and now she's dead, so I don't know if anybody's really pursuing it any further. I haven't seen any books on it yet. But she figured out the Gospels came from Egyptian documents. And so she hasn't done a thorough, this parable came from this from that. She just tells the story rather than gives scientific results. So that's the only downside with Dina Murdoch's work. It would have been nice to see her do a comparison like I'm doing with the Torah. But I'll get to it once I finish the Torah. So that's coming. I don't know how long, and I might be murdered before then. So yeah, there's a sign that's coming up on Jesus' birthday on the 2024, and I don't think Mormons realize that's the original Jesus' birthday, because I've done the book, I've done the videos, and not too many people are aware of it. Oh well, if you guys don't want to know the truth, that's up to you, but you can't be saved in ignorance. Alrighty, I'm done. I need to eat and relax.